Hi, my name is Corme, and today I'll be sharing with you guys how I like to heal the second boss inside of Nokhud Defensive, the Raging Tempest. Before I get started on that though, I do want to show you the talents I run in Nokhud, because I know that's going to be the first thing that people ask in the comments is, Sniffa, where are the talents? So here we go. It's pretty similar to like the build I run everywhere. The only like major difference that I make sure of in Nokhud is that I'm running just in time. This is to make sure that I can TD my rogue or myself on every single Gale arrow on the third boss, because it is going to one-shot most DPS on anything above a 24. Also, for the last boss, that thing does one-shot DPS if they don't have a big defensive, so it's important there. I also have to take Rush of Vitality to make sure that I live that. Not always my favorite thing to take, but pretty good pick for most tyrannical bosses, even though it's annoying to have to hover before your Emerald Communion. The other weird thing I usually do, oh, this is wrong. I usually take Inherent Resistance right here on a tyrannical key. Again, a lot of the things like on the third and fourth boss inside this dungeon do one-shot, so I want to make sure, as well as the first boss gets pretty close to one-shotting you actually in this dungeon. Everything except the Raging Tempest gets pretty close to one-shotting you, and even the Raging Tempest lightning strikes get you pretty dang low, so having that extra little like buffer of HP is really nice in this dungeon, and this dungeon's timer isn't too bad. Okay, so now I'm going to get into the video and go over with you guys how I heal this. Okay. So before we get into it, this is a 26 tyrannical from a few days ago, which means it had the affixes Spiteful and Quaking. So 26 tyrannical, pretty beefy boss we got here. We're gonna have 4 electrical storms in order to be able to kill this boss. So the way my CDs are set up, and I want to like just tell you this before we get in there, the first storm is going to be Zephyr and Stasis healing. The second storm is going to be Emerald Communion and a Rewind. The third one is going to be Stasis again. And the fourth one, God forbid you get the fourth one, good luck to you. We get the fourth one here and we live it just fine. But it's a lot of like making sure like you're allocating like externals. Hopefully people have like health pots. In this case, when we got there, we still had health pots because we were healthy enough living through all the others. So by the time we got there, because we didn't know if we were gonna get the fourth electrical storm, but it's a 26, so of course we were able to get through that just fine. So going into this pull, we didn't mean to pull the boss right here, or at least our paladin didn't, but Avenger's Shield has a mind of its own, so it pulls the boss. You see the boss starts casting Wind Burst on your tank, so if you've ever run with a Prot Warrior before that's tried running into this boss and didn't have like Spell Block or Spell Reflect up, they probably just died on pull. I've seen that happen many a time. You really do not want this cast on your tank, but he saw it, he was ready for it, and he lived it just fine. We pull these gusts for a little bit of funnel for the Prot Paladin as well on pull. We tried to pull those before. And the main idea here before like going into the first electrical storm is that I want to make sure that I'm getting out as many reversions as possible, picking up as many balls as possible, and also not using my Dream Breath or Spirit Bloom until I get into Electrical Storm. Like once I get into Electrical Storm, I want to activate my stasis, store a Verdant Embrace, Dream Breath, and a Spirit Bloom, and then also release it in that same Electrical Storm. I'm also going to be using my Zephyr and both of my defensives. I'm always going to use like a Scales and a Renewing Blaze inside of an Electrical Storm if I can. And yeah, that's basically going to be it. The way that I heal this first lightning strike is I just put out a temporal anomaly, get some echoes out, and then as soon as it hits, I'm going to reversion, so I get good golden hour value, and then I'm going to use the 4 leaving flame stacks that I have because I just fire breathed on pull. So the idea here is to always just fire breath on pull, use that to heal, and save your other big healing for that first storm. Like honestly, like the first storm is usually the scariest, and that's because he spawns his second set of balls right when the storm is starting. And also, you're probably not going to have more than 5 stacks, so you're going to have to go around and still gather balls as the storm is starting, and it's just really hectic. So that's usually the one where I tell like rogues or whatever like defensive or like immunity we have. Especially since rogue cloak is like 2 minutes, like I usually tell them to always cloak the first and then they get it back for the third. However, since we're getting 4 here, he didn't cloak the first. But yeah, it's fine. So you saw that all went out. We saw our health got really low. Like I said, it doesn't quite one-shot on 26, but it does get you very low. I ran a very heavy like burst build last week, so if I wasn't running that, that definitely would have one-shot me. Also remember that like soaking the balls right before you go into that will put you low. And after that, right now I'm hard casting like real echoes instead of just my temporal anomaly echoes, because I would rather get like real like stronger versions on my DPS, as many as I can, going into this instead of just the weaker ones that come from my temporal anomaly. So right now he's about to start doing the storm. I'm getting as many balls as I can. All of our health is a tiny bit low going into this, but it's going to be fine. I put out one more real echo here. I press Zephyr, I press Renewing Blaze, I press my Scales for my DR. I'm going back, I'm getting a few more balls, and then I activate Stasis, BE, tip the skills, a Spirit Bloom, and then I'm going to Dream Breath here. Quicking also really annoying this week. Go and get a couple more balls to refresh my stacks. Put out one more Temporal Anomaly so I could get out as many like lifelines as I could. It didn't hit our Boomkin, but that's fine. And then I reactivate my Stasis and we get through this one just fine. And then after that, I Fire Breath, get 4 more Leaping Flame stacks. This is going to look really similar. Like almost every single lightning strike that goes on in between these storms is going to just be like back and forth between Leaping Flame stacks. Like a Temporal Anomaly echoes into Golden Hour Healing with Reversion and then Leaping Flame stacks, or a Dream Breath going back and forth. But trying to make sure going into any storm where I need to use a Dream Breath instead of a Stasis that I'm not using that right before. Which gets a little bit tricky to like keep track of, because I know you're having to keep track of where are my DPS standing and how much energy does the boss have and how many more times until this and what are my stacks at and how many stacks are they at, like, and I need to clear Thundering. Like, this boss is really hectic on an Evoker just because of your short range. But once you, it's much harder in a pug than a coordinated group, of course. Like, if people are like running from you and they're all over the place. But just learning to position well. Kind of sucks that our rogue got pushed out of melee there. That was kind of my fault for getting a little bit too close. But when you have a coordinated group that knows to do that, it's fine and it's okay. And it does let me hit Dream Breath on everyone. It sucks a little bit, but yeah, that's just how it has to be sometimes. So right now I'm just going to Fire Breath. Gonna put out some Leaping Flame stacks. I only really got healing on the Boomkin. The Boomkin is the one that usually needs like the most babysitting here for the most part. When this is going on, I just do some Golden Hour healing there. Put out more Living Flames a little bit. And again, it's not like super important that I'm keeping like everyone here like topped like perfectly like on time. Right now we're getting into the next electrical storm. So I have a Temporal Anomaly available. What I'm going to do here is just Emerald Communion, the beginning of it, and then I'm going to rewind after. You never want to go into one of these and like just be like, oh yeah, rewind's going to carry this whole thing, because ideally you want to wait until 5 seconds into the storm to press your rewind, because then it's actually going to carry the rest of the storm, and make sure you're topped before the next lightning strike if you do that. Because of how rewind works, you want to take 5 seconds of damage first. Yeah, I just BE, press Emerald Communion. I have that static Emerald Communion, but it's fine because I didn't really need to move here. And then I rewind. And it's going to do a bunch of healing. This Dream Breath, honestly, like, just not necessary. I don't even, like, looking at this, I'm like, why did I even press that? That's just like a healer, like, brain, like, safety thing. You don't realize how much your rewind is healing. Right there, I'm just going to proc my Living Flame stacks. Even though I didn't have a proc, it's fine. I'm not exactly sure why I did that, but you know. Sometimes you saw people's health bars to be topped. So that was the second electrical storm, and again, you're just going to see me doing the same exact thing here. I'm probably going to Dream Breath whenever it comes up here. My melee doing a really good job of making sure everybody has room. They're also going back and they're like soaking orbs on top of that. I get quaked here, I love that. My Boomkin is almost dead, so I VE over him, and I'm getting back to my original position. So after the storm, I got put on the other side with the melee, because I had to VE to Emerald Communion. But then after that, I found an opportunity to reset to back where I usually am. It doesn't really, like, positioning kind of matters. I usually like to stay behind the tank because I like would prefer that the DPS get as many orbs as possible. And while the tank's damage does matter, and he does get annoyed that I soak so many, it's like the least harmful, I guess, for me to be soaking as many like on the tank side. But you also want to make sure that you're standing in a position that like your range isn't like in the middle of nowhere. Like if I'm standing here and my Boomkin is standing where the DH is, there's a good chance they're always going to be out of range of me. So like this way we have position means that like I can pretty much always be in range. If the two melee are here, the Boomkin is always on my right. I'm kind of standing behind the tank, and then like behind the tank but on closer to the side of the Boomkin than I am over here to the side of the rogue. That's the idea behind positioning here. Again, this is the third one. This is my Stasis. I have Zephyr up. I've already pressed Renewing Blaze, and I've pressed my scales here. I'm going to Spirit Bloom. Oh, actually didn't Spirit Bloom. I messed up. And then, oh yeah, this is where the bad thing happens. I forgot about this. So we both needed to clear our Thundering, and he said, oh, I'm going to clear my Thundering on you. I was like, okay. So I'm just like getting my thing ready. Go over to get that orb so I can get a refresh. And then we get Quaking. And so when this happens, he like hesitates, he starts running away, and I'm like, no, don't run away, we need to clear. So then my character turns. So then when I activate the stasis, it doesn't. Oh, like not only did the stasis not hit, but the ball didn't hit him. Yeah, so like because I turned my character, my temporal anomaly didn't hit, and my stasis didn't hit. Anyways, these bad things happen, and this is what battle reses are for. This is what you save them for. That's fine. He gets back up and we do the boss fight. I forgot about that. That was funny. Okay, and then from here, it's looking exactly the same. So I've already used Fire Breath, so this next one that's going to come up, I'm probably just going to Dream Breath. And I'm going to go pick up some balls, you know, put out some reversions, get some good golden hour healing. There's not really that much to it. Like, the main idea is just making sure that you're watching timings and making sure that if you need to stasis, or just like Dream Breath, Spirit Bloom healing a storm, that you aren't pressing it to heal the lightning strikes, and that you're just taking advantage of like reversions and you're leaving flame stacks to heal in between. And it again is a lot of positioning. I know it's hard to do in a pug, but you gotta kind of force it if you can a little bit, or just at least try and play near your other range player, or however many of them you have. Make a good staff value there from Thundering. And this is going to be our last electrical storm. So we basically have nothing here. Like, we have no Zephyr, no Stasis, no Rewind, no Emerald Communion. This is just got to be like pure raw healing. So you see that I TD the Demon Hunter here because he has the least amount of stuff. We do have a cloak from the Rogue, and then before we started this, our Boomkin Coop said, oh, I have health pot available. He also has Bark Skin, and then our DH basis says like, oh, I have like basically nothing. So like that kind of communication, I understand you don't have that in a pug, but in like a good group where you have that kind of communication, that's how you make those decisions, and you can kind of make do with having almost nothing here. So all I have here is just like a Dream Breath, a Spirit Bloom. We get the cloak. I started casting the Spirit Bloom before I saw that. He also health potted right there. That was why that healed him for so much. And our Demon Hunter just barely lives there. We got like a lot of golden hour healing on that Rewind right there, and then also our Rogue barely lives that last tick, but it's fine. We don't get the lightning strike after, so I don't have to worry about trying to top the ball, and we fly off. Most of the time, you're never going to get 4 electrical storms, so that's just like an unusual thing that happens when you're in a high key, like a 26 Tyran. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something, and good luck healing this boss in your Evoker.